Hey guys, Marshall Mathers the fourth here, back to you today with another video. And in today's video, I will be talking today about the fact that I wish and do believe that Eminem should have released his Marshall Mathers LP album on March 23 in the year 2000 at the age of 27 years old. So the same year and even day he released that album of his, but just 2 months earlier. But that's not the only thing that I wish would have been different about that album of his. But I also wish that, and obviously do believe that, Eminem should have had a total of 20 tracks on that album of his, which I'm pretty sure he originally was going to, because for the 20th anniversary of his Marshall Mathers LP album in the year 2020, he did a live stream video on his Instagram account. And I remember fans on Reddit talking about some of his fans asking him, were there any songs that were left out or scrapped or unreleased from your Marshall Mathers LP album? And he said that 2 of the songs didn't make it on that album of his, just 2. And if he had released whatever those 2 songs would have been called, of course, then it would have brought that album of his to a total of 20 tracks, which I really wish he would have released. And one of the songs I know would have been called either Dear Ronnie or Uncle Ronnie, which would have been a tribute song to pay honor and homage to his uncle, whose name was Ronnie, who committed suicide in the year 1990. And the only reason why Eminem, unfortunately, was not able to release that song of his is because Ronnie's family threatened to sue Eminem if he would have went ahead and released that song on his album, even though he had already put the time, effort, and even money into making that song, because he did make that song. He completed it. It's just somewhere sitting and rotting away in his studio. A Marshall Mathers LP era Eminem song, which either would have been titled Dear Ronnie or Uncle Ronnie, which again would have been a very sad song to pay homage and honor to his Uncle Ronnie, who committed suicide in the year 1990, who was also one of Eminem's closest friends. But also, Ronnie was the guy who introduced Eminem to rap in the first place at the age of just 14, because him and Ronnie were the same exact age. And Ronnie was the one who introduced Eminem to rap music. And if it would not have been for Ronnie, Eminem would have probably never listened to or even heard of rap music, if anything, if it wouldn't have been for his Uncle Ronnie introducing him to that genre of music in the first place. And when Ronnie had committed suicide, it really broke Eminem's heart. It really damaged him emotionally. And so when Eminem released his Marshall Mathers LP album, he originally intended to have a song dedicated to his uncle, whose name was Ronnie. A song that he put time and effort and even his own fucking money into making, because obviously you need to have money in order to pay for like a rap beat and also studio time to record a rap song or even rap album for that matter. So obviously he used and spent his own damn money to put together a rap song which would have paid honor and homage to his Uncle Ronnie. It would have been a song dedicated to him, a song in tribute of him. But then, because of Ronnie's asshole family members who threatened to sue Eminem, he wasn't able to release that song of his on his Marshall Mathers LP album. which pisses me the fuck off, because I would have loved to have heard whatever that song would have sounded like what the beat would have sounded like, what the verses would have been, what the lyrics would have been, what exactly Eminem even rapped about on that song that had to do with his Uncle Ronnie, who committed suicide in the year 1990. And I would have greatly appreciated being able to hear and listen to that song of his on his Marshall Mathers LP album, if he would have been able to release that song on his Marshall Mathers LP album, which he definitely should have been able to do. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I just think it's unfair that Ronnie's family threatened to sue Eminem if he would have went ahead and released that song on his Marshall Mathers LP album, especially knowing and considering that Eminem was Ronnie's family too. But I guess Eminem just did not even have a say in it. He didn't even get to explain himself or even try to make Ronnie's family members see things from Eminem's side of things and have their approval to go ahead and release that song on his Marshall Mathers LP album. And it's just really fucked up that Eminem wasn't able to release that awesome, amazing song on that album of his. And I don't know what the other song would have been titled. That's the only thing I'm still wondering about. Like, there are two songs that Eminem didn't release on his Marshall Mathers LP album, or wasn't able to, that didn't make the final cut or version of his Marshall Mathers LP album. And that's just two songs. So obviously, if he had released those two songs, again, it would have brought that album of his to 20 tracks in total, just like his Slim Shady LP album. And therefore, the album of his would have been longer, 2 songs longer. And I mean, it just would have been so dope and epic if his Marshall Mathers LP album from the year 2000 that he released at the age of 27, if it would have had a total of 20 tracks, that would have just been out of this world, especially knowing and considering the fact that his Marshall Mathers LP album is one of the greatest rap albums that Eminem had ever released in his early rap career. And even regarded as one of the greatest hip-hop rap albums in the history of rap music. And there is no denying that. So if that album of his would have been longer, it would have been sweet. The longer that album of his could have been would have been better, obviously. I mean, the longer it could have been in total of in total of number of tracks, would have just been great. It would have been really nice. But unfortunately, Ronnie's family members, who had to be a bunch of dicks to Eminem at the time, made it so that he wasn't able to release that song, which would have been titled either Dear Ronnie or Uncle Ronnie. And again, I don't know what the other song would have been called, though. I've heard some people on Reddit say that it would have been titled something like Mom, because apparently Paul Rosenberg said that there would have been a Marshall Mathers LP song called Mom, just like a single word, but I don't know for sure. I have no idea for sure what the other song would have been called or what it would have sounded like. And another thing that I definitely would have loved it if Eminem would have done with his Marshall Mathers LP album, that, again, I really wish and strongly believe he should have released on March 23 in the year 2000. Same year and day he released that album of his, but just 2 months earlier. Because, in my opinion, I just feel like that album would have just been much better if it had came out in the month of March, because it just feels way more to me like an album of his that would have been released in that month. Because when I look at the cover of that album of his, the feeling it gives me, the atmosphere of it, the tone of it, the vibe it gives off to me, at least, is an album that would have just been perfect if it had came out in the month of March. But that's just my opinion. That's just the way I personally feel. But anyways, I would have really loved it and greatly appreciated it if Eminem would have also made and released a deluxe edition of that album of his, which would have just been out of this world. It would have been so incredible and so considerate and so generous of Eminem if he had made and released, or included, in other words, a deluxe edition of his Marshall Mathers LP album, which obviously would have made that album even better because it's already a great album, but the longer it could have been, the better. Because obviously if he had added more songs, whether on the standard edition, like the 2 songs that were left out, scrapped, and unreleased from his Marshall Mathers LP album, and if he had included a 3-track deluxe edition, it would have just added to an already great hip-hop rap album, so therefore it would have made it even better. And there is no denying that. Regardless of who you are or what you think, the longer that album of his could have been, the better it would have been. No questions asked. No doubt about it. And the 3 songs that I could have seen or pictured or imagined that probably, if anything, would have made it onto a deluxe edition of his Marshall Mathers LP album, if obviously Eminem would have made and released one to his Marshall Mathers LP album, which he definitely should have done, would have been songs like The Kids, the first one of 3, then Our House featuring Fred Durst, and then either a Bad Meets Evil song featuring Royce da 5'9", or a rap song featuring all the members of the Outsiders, which is one of Eminem's other old rap groups that he used to be a part of in the late 90s when he was an underground up-and-coming rapper trying to make it into the rap music industry. And before he did, he used to be a part, for a very short time, of course, a rap group called the Outsiders, who were a rap group that was from New Jersey. And so it would have been really considerate and generous of Eminem if he would have included a song featuring all the members of the Outsiders on at least a deluxe edition of his Marshall Mathers LP album, and have the deluxe edition cover of that album of his obviously have been different than the original cover. The original cover of Eminem's Marshall Mathers LP album has him kind of sitting down or squatting, kind of curled up, almost in a ball. There's alcohol bottles around him, and he's sitting in front of what looks like a building of some kind or sort. But then another version of that album cover of his is him sitting on the porch step of his childhood home. So I think the album cover of his Marshall Mathers LP album with his house where he's sitting on the porch step of his old childhood home would have been a perfect, excellent cover for a deluxe edition of his Marshall Mathers LP album, especially knowing that one of the unreleased, throwaway, scrapped Marshall Mathers LP era Eminem songs, at least I assume it is a song titled Our House featuring Fred Durst on the chorus. And it's a song that Eminem had made and recorded in the year 1999, which is the year he started even recording songs for his Marshall Mathers LP album. So I assumed that it was probably, if anything, intended for his Marshall Mathers LP album. and it's titled Our House. And one of the version album covers of Eminem's Marshall Mathers LP album is where he's sitting on the porch step of his childhood home. So that cover would have been a perfect choice for a deluxe edition album cover of that album of his. And I just think it's very unfortunate that none of those things happened with his Marshall Mathers LP album. But the last thing that I want to say before closing out this video is that I really wish Eminem would have made 4 music videos for his Marshall Mathers LP album. And the only reason why I say that is because his previous album, being the Slim Shady LP, had a total of 4 music videos, being Hi, My Name Is, Guilty Conscience featuring Dr. Dre, Role Model, and I Just Don't Give a Fuck. That's 4 music videos for 4 of the singles on Eminem's Slim Shady LP album. So it would have just made more sense for Eminem to have also had a total of 4 music videos for his Marshall Mathers LP album, just like he did for his Slim Shady LP album. But obviously, I don't wish that Eminem's Slim Shady LP album would have been his previous album. I wish that album of his would be 2 albums earlier instead of just 1 album earlier, because I really wish Eminem would have made and released a Slim Shady LP2 album on November 13 of 1998 at the age of 26, and then February 1 of 1998 at the age of 25. That had been the day, month, and especially year that he would have released his first Slim Shady LP album. And then release his Marshall Mathers LP album on March 23 in the year 2000 at the age of 27. But obviously released that album of his exactly the same year that he did, and even same day, but just a different month, being just 2 months earlier. And like I said, I would have loved it if Eminem would have been able to release those 2 unreleased songs on his Marshall Mathers LP album that didn't make the cut, obviously way back when he did release it. Well, when I wish he would have, and also that he would have made and released a 3-track deluxe edition of his Marshall Mathers LP album with a different cover than the original cover art of his Marshall Mathers LP album. But anyways, that's all I wanted to say in today's video. Let me know what you all think in the comment section down below. I'm out.